Hi, this is Tisch Aitken, and it is Tuesday, September 24th, 2024, and we are in the middle of eclipse season. A lot happening. We had the partial lunar eclipse on September, I got to remind myself when the heck it was. It's September 17th at 25 degrees of Pisces. That was last week. I should remember that, right? Well, it's been quite a Neptunian time. And we are still releasing that eclipse, but we're also approaching a solar eclipse that's going to occur in Libra on October 2nd. Eclipses always come in pairs. They come within 2 weeks of one another, and they occur every 6 months. Sometimes we have three eclipses. If we're starting to segue into another round or what have you, we may have six eclipses in a year. This time we have four eclipses because we had two in March and April, and now we just had the lunar eclipse in Pisces. This is the first eclipse in the Pisces Virgo axis since 2015. We had a total solar eclipse on March 20th of 2015. That was at 29 degrees of Pisces. That is the final degree of Pisces and of the zodiac. Very relevant to all of us now because that is where Neptune, which is the modern ruler of Pisces, the planet of dreams and imagination and the subconscious mind, Neptune is transiting at this degree on and off through February of 2026. And in this last eclipse, this lunar eclipse was close to the end of both the sign of Pisces and the zodiac. It was at 25 Pisces, and Neptune was at 28 degrees of Pisces. So even though it was a north node eclipse, meaning that the eclipse itself was conjunct the north node of karma, that's what we're meant to go towards. The north node is still transiting in the sign of Aries through January 6th of next year. Then the north node is they're always moving backwards. They're always retrograde. So it's going to retrograde from Aries Libra to Pisces Virgo. And the north node of karma will get to 29 degrees of Pisces, where Neptune first entered on May 4th of this year. And again, that's the last degree of the zodiac and of Pisces, and it's a fixed star known as Shiat. And it's a difficult fixed star. It's very centered on mental health. Many people feeling despair or depression or dealing with addiction issues, but it also, I think, is a very good focal point for all of us in terms of trying to find different healing modalities. That is something I think that many different lineups in the zodiac right now are pointing to all of us trying to find different tools to deal with restructuring our thinking, with morphing to new ways of thinking, or surrendering. I mean, Pisces is very much a sign of surrendering and letting go, and it's dealing with the imagination. And we are just about to have Mercury leave the sign of Virgo. But in the lunar eclipse chart, Mercury was opposite Saturn. So Mercury was in the sign of Virgo, where it is in its dignity. Mercury is the planet of information. It's the planet of the mind and communication and networking and learning, among many different things. But it was opposite Saturn in Pisces, which is having trouble trying to structure a dream, trying to keep us all afloat in terms of feeling optimistic and feeling, like we can get things accomplished, because Pisces is so amorphous and so emotionally based. And so we're all still reeling from that eclipse. But when you have eclipses that are so close to one another, as they always are, you're still dealing with the energy of the approaching eclipse. And so a lunar eclipse is a time of culmination. It's a full moon on steroids. And yes, it was a time of forging new beginnings in the sense of the North Node in Aries, having the courage to face that what is needing to be processed emotionally, because Pisces is a very emotional sign. That what needs to be released or is letting, there was a lot of loss with that lunar eclipse, and there has been a lot of loss with Neptune at the final degree of Pisces. But now with the next eclipse, that is a south node eclipse. So in that case, it's a new moon eclipse, meaning planting new seeds, setting new intentions. But it also is a south node eclipse. The south node is at 6 degrees of Libra, and the total solar, not total, but the solar eclipse will be at 10 degrees and 4 minutes of Libra. And that eclipse occurs at 2:39 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on October 2nd. And that eclipse is a new moon eclipse, but again, there is a releasing and a letting go, because in this case, the south node of karma that we've mastered, that we're meant to let go, is conjunct the new moon eclipse, whereas with the full moon eclipse, it was conjunct the north node. So there was something in that we were meant to go towards. And this, even though we are meant to initiate new beginnings, there definitely is a releasing energy to both of these eclipses. And in this eclipse, Neptune is 8 degrees from the north node of karma at the bottom, with opposing the solar eclipse. So that's also speaking to the fact that things are getting dissolved. The north node is still in Aries through the beginning of January, urging us all to have courage, but also to feel, to process emotions. We have in this eclipse, it's an air sign. Libra is an air sign, and it's about relationships and partnerships. And we just began the equinox, Libra season, on September 22nd. And on that date, Venus, which rules the sign of Libra, squared Pluto, which is the planet of death and regeneration. And Pluto is currently transiting at the last degree of Capricorn. And that is a very strong story. We're all wrapping up a 16-year story that commenced in 2008 when Pluto initially ingressed into the sign of Capricorn. And we have seen many structures and systems come down on the world front in our own lives, and there is yet more letting go of that story, wrapping that up. That is a big deal. And in the first eclipse, there was a grand trine in Earth. So it was a very much a watery Neptunian eclipse, because Pisces is a water sign. It rules the ocean, and it was conjunct Neptune. But the sun in Virgo formed a trine to both Uranus and Pluto, Uranus in Taurus and Pluto in Capricorn. And that was a grand trine in Earth. And, Mercury and the sun were both in Virgo at that time, giving some grounding. And there's that whole balance of the mind and how you think, Virgo, health and wellness, but connected to the mind, but opposite the Pisces energy, which is really about suspension of disbelief, operating through your intuition, through your imagination, your dreams. And for many people, again, many of us are feeling scared and lost. And, there are a lot of reasons to feel that. There's a very difficult world. But I think that in this, the more we can work with our imagination. And I kind of came, because eclipses bring things to light. They make us see things in a way we never have before. And they bring light to issues for us. Sometimes it's something that's been boiling for a while and it finally boils over. We've been waiting on it for too long, and finally it just comes to a head, and that's done. Or sometimes it's something we had no idea about. It's kind of Uranian in that way, that it can change our life in a second. And it's something very, very eventful, obviously. If something changes your life in a second, it has to be. And that it can be completely like a wild card, a dramatic wild card that can change your journey forever. But with this, my feeling is that with the solar eclipse, that's in an air sign. Air signs are very much about communication and connection. In Libra, it's ruled by Venus, which is partnerships. Now Venus is transiting in the sign of Scorpio, which it entered on the day of the equinox. And it's going to be in the sign of Scorpio through October 17th. And in the solar eclipse chart, so it's technically in its detriment. It loves being in Libra, where it was up until the 22nd, but it is in its detriment in the sign of Scorpio because it also rules the sign of Taurus, and Scorpio opposes the sign of Taurus. And when you have a planet in the opposite sign of its dignity, it's in its detriment. So in Scorpio, it is a wounded Venus. It has trouble trusting. It can be suspicious. It's very good at getting to the bottom of things. And in this new moon eclipse chart, we have Venus forming a trine to Mars in Cancer and Neptune in Pisces, and Saturn in Pisces. Neptune's too far away. Saturn in Pisces. So we've got Mars in Cancer. It's going to be at 15 degrees. Venus will be at 11 degrees of Scorpio, and Saturn will be at 14 degrees of Pisces. Mars will be retrograding later in the year on December 6th at 6 degrees of Leo, but it's going to re-enter the sign of Cancer early in January, and it'll remain in Cancer through April 18th. So again, Mars is in its fall position in Cancer, doesn't love being there, but this is where we have to work with listening to our intuition, how we feel, even if it can be uncomfortable, taking action, even when we do sometimes feel uncomfortable, but working more with intuition. We've got, Neptune is a key player. We have the eclipses segueing now to the Pisces Virgo axis. The north node of karma will be in Pisces from January of 2025 through July of 2026, because they they transit in a sign for 18 months. So it'll be a year and a half in Pisces, answering to where Neptune is going to be through early 26. And that is surrendering, as I mentioned earlier. That is suspension of disbelief. That is working with spirituality, however that is for you. Compassion. That is connecting to the arts and creativity. And many people, including myself, I've had a lot of trouble this past summer. It really started, I think, when Saturn and Neptune retrograded, if I at least trace it for myself. Saturn would have retrograded at the end of June at at 19 degrees of Pisces, and then Neptune retrograded in early July on the 2nd of July at 29 degrees of Pisces. And this is, since then, and I've heard this from a lot of people, as creative and intuitive and imaginative as Pisces is, it's been so hard to anchor that creativity, to believe that it's possible. For a lot of people, they had to let go of dreams or creative projects or things they've let go of, things they've been working on in the last couple of years for many different reasons. The world has changed a lot, obviously. And so this is where, for some of us, we may have to reconnect to it. In some cases, we may have to reinvent and work on a new dream. Hopefully it's creative and in line with something we were trying to do before. Not get jaded about it, because it's very easy to feel that way. And trying to find different healing modalities. Saturn and Neptune co-present in Pisces. That is a big deal. They were close together, and it's a big deal. They have not been since the mid 1800s, and before that the early mid 1500s. So to have the two co-present in the sign of Pisces, and it was closer in 1523, but they still were both in the sign of Pisces in 1848. This is where, again, that won't happen for a very long time. Neptune is in its dignity, loves being in Pisces, takes 165 years to orbit. Saturn, it may not be in its detriment or fall position, but it does not love being in Pisces. It's not easy working with it. It's much easier working with Saturn in Capricorn, or even in signs like Saturn in Scorpio. Maybe it's not in its dignity, but Scorpio is used to maybe purging, and it's ruled by Pluto. So Pluto's cycles feel more like Saturn cycles. Neptune cycles do not. Neptune can make you feel like you're in a psych ward and nobody makes sense, and you're just talking in circles. And this is where, again, maybe I had a friend and a client say earlier today, I think this makes a lot of sense. This is learning how to release control. This doesn't mean that we give up on things at all. This means that with Neptune at the last degrees of Pisces, Pluto wrapping up its story in Capricorn, which is such a control oriented energy. Pluto rules Scorpio, which loves to be in control and is the sign of domination and power. Pluto rules Scorpio, and Pluto is the planet of power. Capricorn rules people in leadership, corporations, and governments. These are people, the authority figures, the teachers, those that were the leaders. And so lots of changes in leadership in the world, people that have misused power being brought to justice and light. We're seeing that play out in a big way, I think, right now on the world stage. And just so much stuff in our own lives. What are we letting go of with Pluto and Capricorn as we transition to Pluto re-entering Aquarius? Pardon me. And now really diving into the new age of Aquarius, not going back, teetering back and forth to Capricorn. How do we deal with this story of the lunar eclipse in Pisces, defaulting to where Neptune was in 22 and 23 up until early 24? You know, not the easiest with, even though Neptune rules Pisces. This is again where many people are feeling like, I don't have it. I don't have it together. But this is where the mental health epidemic, I think there could be a lot more progress. And what always seems to go hand in hand to me, at least from my viewpoint, is that the arts, the healing arts, the obviously the fine arts, music, creativity, all seem to come together to help that. And so if we're in a mental health epidemic and people are feeling depressed and they need creative outlets, yet they're having trouble focusing, not everybody is. Some people are writing masterpieces right now. I'm not one of those people, but some are, and I know some that aren't right now. But that doesn't mean we won't again, and that we won't get to a point of feeling really creatively inspired. And this is where this next eclipse, and even this last eclipse, Mercury opposite Saturn, Mercury in Virgo, very detail oriented, seeing what needs to be improved, what needs to be fine tuned. Opposite Saturn, the reality planet. Well, good luck with that dream. You got to work on this. But that grand trine in Earth saying you have support to ground, even though you feel out in space. And now this solar eclipse in Libra, finding new ways to partner with yourself. We are in a time that has become, again, more disconnected, I think, than ever. And yet, with Pluto returning to Aquarius, that's very much about the internet and social media. But prior to the internet and modern times and technology, Aquarius was how we networked and formed connections in business. And I had a father that, he was always in some form of sales. And I think even like, I think probably the first few years after he passed away, I kept finding business cards of his all over on different jackets. I mean, we got rid of almost all his stuff, but just in different ways. He always had cards on him in some way or another. He was always working it on the weekend, after work, whatever. There was always a connection to be made. And I think that's a way to look at right now, even though you're feeling, or a lot of us are feeling this. And I think that's another part of this. Jupiter is in Gemini through June of next year. And it is in its detriment because it rules the opposite sign of Sagittarius. Gemini deals with local environments, local businesses, small businesses, and many are suffering right now. And this is where, again, we need to network. A lot of people are feeling anxiety, supporting your local businesses, getting out there, making connections. That could help with anxiety too, because we're in a time where there's so much fear, and yet we need to have that local presence. I mean, we're going to be in the digital age will take a whole other level no matter what in the next 20 years. You can be rest assured. So connecting locally, there were people that took time off on the day of the equinox to get off of social media and shut their phones down. If they were able to do that, that's an awesome way to usher in a new season and be more mindful. And I think that's going to play in to the mental health epidemic too, because we need technology, but we don't need it rattling our brains 24/7. That is not good for your brain. I can't imagine that's good for mental health. Well, but also for memory as we get older. I would think that could increase dementia. That much multitasking. So with that, again, going to the upcoming eclipse, we are in this portal of what's coming up for you. What are the messages? What's gone on with your friends, with your loved ones? Are there changes at work? Often there are layoffs, or new people come to the workplace, or people leave. Maybe somebody, not that they're let go, maybe they make a big change. People suddenly find out they have to move, or people break up suddenly. New relationships happen suddenly. A lot of major beginnings and endings in eclipse season. These things happen all the time, but often you'll hear about a lot of that in a short period of time. And social media is a great way to at least gauge, even if you don't know people. Sometimes people air their whole lives on social media, and if you see people making big announcements of things going on in their lives, you can see, well, oh, that person has to move. That person said they just had big layoffs at their company. Whatever it is, you can see that kind of stuff is eclipse oriented. And with the grand trine in water that's going to be in effect in this solar eclipse, releasing, okay, Venus rules this new moon eclipse, setting intentions, how you want to partner with others and with yourself, because we need each other. That's for sure. I don't care if we're going to be in the new age of Aquarius. We could all be in outer space in a different way, but maybe the Pisces way. Maybe we're on a, I don't know what we're on, but we, we're in outer space, but we need each other. Okay. And so this is where this new moon and eclipse partnering, but making healthy decisions. Maybe there's certain relationships that are not beneficial for you, or maybe they take advantage of you. Venus and Scorpio. That's a suspicious Venus, and we had that Plutonian energy entering the equinox, Venus square Pluto, Venus entering Scorpio that day. And yet it's part of a grand trine, which is with Pisces, Saturn and Pisces, anchoring the dream, healing wounds, because Pisces is a very healing sign, letting go of the past, hopefully, working with your imagination and law of attraction and law of abundance, and ways to shift from a place of lack to a place of opportunity. And then you've got Mars and Cancer, how you take action. Well, okay, it might be a little more crabby in Cancer, but you've got Venus and Mars, which are both the planets of, Venus is love and Mars is passion and the feminine and the masculine. And you've got Saturn, which is stability, trusting your intuition. We've got Saturn in Pisces on and off through February of 26. We've got Neptune in Pisces on and off through February of 26. We've got Mars in Cancer, another water sign, on and off through April 18th of next year, mostly on. And so we're working a lot, and we've got now the eclipses in the Pisces Virgo axis that just began this past week on September 17th, and was conjunct Neptune, saying that this is, again, answering to Pluto and Capricorn. A lot of us are not in control. Being in control is not always the best thing either. Sometimes you have to release control in order for things to evolve. We can often get in our own way sometimes. And this is where we could have a creative renaissance that we all need desperately. Maybe more progress with mental health than we've ever made, because again, psychology, like every field, has changed a lot. And I think, imagine, particularly during the pandemic, when people couldn't get to their therapist, and it's been changing for a while because you don't have the time frames of the 20th century, that 9 to 5 schedule. It's a different time. People work many different hours, but also there's going to be a lot more attention on the internet and on phones, and how much that factors into our health and well-being. And I think new love and relationships and going towards love, even though Venus may be in its detriment, it is part of a grand trine. This new moon eclipse is setting new intentions of how you can partner with others, but firstly partnering with yourself, because the North Node is at the bottom of the chart, conjunct Neptune. And there is a dissolving with that energy still, but there also is, and trusting your intuition, having courage with the North Node in Aries. Yet also there is that idea that I think we can create magic. And I feel that I know that's naive because I wasn't feeling that last week. And they're heavy things that we're all going through. I myself am personally going through too, and many people I know are incredibly big stuff. But I do feel that we are capable of it. And I like that there was a grand trine in Earth with the lunar eclipse in water. And I like that there's a grand trine in water with the solar eclipse in air, because we already had a lot of water, again, making us feel like we're floating in on September 17th, the Earth grounds. And then with this eclipse in air, we've got the South Node, the Sun and the Moon, and Mercury, which is communication. Mercury entered or enters the sign of, I didn't even say that, this week. So we had Venus change signs. Venus will be in Scorpio through October 17th. And then Mercury today forms a beautiful angle to Uranus. That is an innovative energy. Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. Good for networking, good for coming up with good ideas. Tomorrow it opposes Neptune at 7:07 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Again, about you could feel despair, or you could wake up and do a manifestation. Maybe listen to some music for the first 10 minutes you wake up. Maybe just be in silence and try to picture something that centers you, whatever it is for you. Journaling is a great thing, I think, always during eclipse seasons. And particularly when you have strong Pisces energy, because it can be so prophetic and psychic and intuitive. But and I just lost my track of thought. Oh, yes. So we've got Mercury opposite Neptune, which I'm probably feeling already, but that's good for connecting to dreams. Some may have very psychic dreams right now and in general, but tonight leading up to that. And then Mercury will form a good angle to Pluto. That's a transformative aspect at 9:14 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time on the 25th. And then at 12:14 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time on the 26th. And then Mercury changes signs, leaves Virgo, where it loves to be, but it enters the sign of Libra. I believe it's 6:09 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Maybe it's at 4. I have all these times. 4:09 a.m. early in the morning Eastern Time. And it will remain in the sign of Libra through October 13th. And obviously it's a big part of that eclipse chart, giving us information. But with that, also Mercury still loves being in Libra. It's an air sign and very good, again, for partnering and communication. So this is a social time, and I want to reinforce the idea too that we're going to have Mars retrograding in the beginning of December. The more you can take action right now, if you're launching new things, if you're trying to get things going, whether you're focusing on a move or launching a campaign with your business, or pardon me, if you're looking for a new job opportunity, we're going to have Mars retrograde in the beginning of next year through almost the end of February. So taking micro steps or big steps now, if you're able, releasing things, paying attention to what's going on around you. Again, Venus just changed signs. It's now in Scorpio, no longer in its dignity. It's in its detriment. And Mercury is in its dignity now, but it enters Libra on the 26th through October 13th. And it does like being in Libra too. It's very cerebral there. A lot to think about, more about the eclipses, more about my ideas coming up next time. And good luck. I am offering the eclipse special. Great time to get a reading right now with Pluto at the end of Capricorn, these eclipses that are so illuminating. And I'm doing a really big special, $60 for 60 minutes and $30 for 30 minutes. And I don't think I've done that for a few years. So good luck, take care, and thank you.